So there she is, my 2020 Kawasaki Ninja 650, all pretty standard apart from paddock stand bobbins and the shad pannier system. Everything else is pretty standard, not changed anything, still on the stock tyres. Yeah, nice looking bike, I think, nice and sporty for a twin. Yeah, so there you go. I've done nothing major to it at all. Needs a wash, but let's get out and ride it. Today, on this not too bad but blustery October morning, I'm going to do a little owner's review of my 2020 Kawasaki Ninja 650. Okay, so why did I buy this bike as opposed to any other? That's the first question. Well, having passed my test in January 1996 in the snow, I was a big fan of sports bikes. The World Superbike thing was a big thing in the 90s, and I was drawn to sports bikes, and since I passed my test, that's basically all I've ever ridden. Is 400, 600, 750 sports bikes. Never got to 1,000, but all the 90 sports bikes I hankered for. Well, the GSX-R 750, which I've currently got, which is a 2004 model, was definitely making me feel my age regards comfort, and so I was looking for something else that I could do longer distances on in more comfort than the GSX-R, without necessarily losing the sporty looks, sporty style, but also to be a bit more economical. So if I am doing longer distance, I want to get more miles per gallon. And after scouring the internet, this is the bike that was coming close to the top of the list. Okay, so I visited a few dealers, which at the time wasn't very easy, but in between being imprisoned in home, I managed to get some visits in, had a few sit-on bike experiences rather than test rides, because there weren't any, and talked money with the dealers, and out of everything that I went to have a look at, which wasn't a lot, this one seemed to fit the bill for what I wanted out of a bike and financially, and so I shook his hand and did the deal. And I bought this from Drayton-Croft Kawasaki in Hinckley in July 2020. Okay, so what did I buy? Well, you all know it's the Kawasaki Ninja 650 2020 model. It's a 650 parallel twin, and it knocks out somewhere near 68 brake horsepower, I believe. And I think maximum torque's about 64 Newton meters. So quite a torquey little engine. I find it quite a torquey little engine. It's equipped with twin front discs. I'll put some specs up on the screen. I don't really get into all that malarkey. But yeah, twin front disc, pedalled with Nissin calipers, single disc on the rear, and it's got right way up front forks, which are non-adjustable, and a single rear shock adjustable for preload. It's the year that they changed the clocks to the TFT dash. Which I'll talk about later. And all in all, it's not a bad package for the money. So what do I think of what I've got, and does it match up to the expectations? Well, let's go top down. So comfort, certainly better than the GSXR. It's probably not as comfortable as an adventure style bike. Let's say its brother, the Versys 650, is probably better comfort wise than this is. However, it's definitely an improvement on what I'm used to. My knees are up around this quite sculpted tank, but not too far. So I don't suffer cramp as much as I do with my GSXR. The seat's quite comfortable. I can do at least a good couple of hours before I start getting a tingly bum. And the bar arrangement, not clip-ons, is this, or is it a what I would call a rental style bar on risers? It's this bespoke sort of bar arrangement that seems to be pretty exclusive to this bike. And all in all, it's quite a comfortable position, I find. The bars do limit being able to attach accessories, that is true. But it's okay. The position that I'm in with my feet, my knees, my back, where my arms are, the amount of weight on my wrists and everything, I find quite comfortable. This little screen isn't the best. It does deflect the wind away from your body, but it does tend to hit me square in there, square in the front of the helmet, so there's nothing down here, and then you get to there, that's where it's coming up and over. There is a touring screen available. Might be a worthy investment if I was to keep the bike. Mirrors are good. They're a sporty sort of shape, so field of vision is compromised. However, they don't buzz about or move. They're pretty solid. See, as though it's a twin. Sometimes the mirrors buzz about and you can't get a good sight picture, but these are pretty good. It's got a small pillion seat on, which I think the whole seat configuration on the 2020 was made a little bit more plusher and more comfortable than the previous model. And the wife has ridden pillion on this, and she's been okay. It's been okay. We've not been far, but she's been comfortable enough. She's not, I haven't had to stretch her out when she's gone off the bike, so there was really no complaints there. But obviously I wouldn't be expecting to tour do the NC 500 with a pillion on the back. I don't think that would work out too good. We've got LED lights on the front. They're nice and bright. And the daytime running lights as well. I think the rear tail light is LED, but the indicator bulbs are bulbs. I've only ridden in the dark a couple of times since I've had the bike, and I presume that the lights were pretty good, and I presume that they're pretty bright because I did get flashed a couple of times by some sad sacks in cars. But I must admit, the suspension, the stock suspension, is a little soft for me. I'm no titch. I'm 5'10" and 15 stone. And going middle for diddle on the rear shock is too soft for me. I have to ramp it up. Front forks seem okay. I haven't really had a problem with those diving or anything like that, but definitely the rear shock is a little soft. And if I was keeping the bike long term, and I had the money, that would possibly be a consideration for an upgrade on the rear shock at least. Tyres. Tyres are a tricky subject. Everybody has a tyre preference. Some people get on with some tyres, some people can't stand them. I've recent years stuck with Metzelers, but this came with Dunlop, Sportmax Road Sport, yeah, Dunlop Sportmax Road Sport tyres as standard. Never ridden on those before, but I must admit I've been mightily impressed. I've not had any squiffy moments in the dry or the wet. I've felt more than confident in the tyres for all the cornering that I've done, and well, everything. I must, you know, they're just really good, confidence-inspiring tyres I found for this bike, for this amount of power. I can't fault them so far. And I'm thinking if they're in the right price bracket, then they would definitely be a consideration for a direct replacement when these have worn out. Well, one final thing about the seat, it's got quite a low seat height, so I can easily flat foot this bike with both feet sat at the lights here. Easily flat foot with both feet, which is another thing that makes, I suppose, especially if you're a newer rider, more confident. Okay, so we're getting to the crux of the matter now. What's the engine like? And the throttle response and the fueling. Well, I've found the fueling at speed or at slow speeds in town pretty spot on. I haven't had any problems. There's been no searching or you know, any yeah, there's been no searching or gasping. The fueling's pretty good. The throttle response, is nice and smooth. Doesn't snatch. It just rolls on and rolls off nicely. I find the throttle on my GSXR snatches a little bit, especially when you lower down in the speed range. But this rolls on and rolls off quite nicely. and the engine's strong. It's 68 brake horsepower or thereabouts, 64 newton meters of torque at maximum, and for a little twin it is strong. It's more than enough for British roads. I found it slightly wanting on the larger dual carriageways and motorways. You have to work, or rather you have to make the bike work a lot harder, you know, if you're trying to ride at high speed for a long distance on a motorway. This engine's much better suited to this type of road. I find it not exhilarating but exciting, confidence inspiring, and you know, it's controllable power, so it helps your confidence. It's no slouch, it's not a 1000cc Gixxer, but for these roads it's pretty damn good. K1 calf. I'm not 100% used to the exhaust note. Being a 4-cylinder sports bike man, the exhaust note is it doesn't match somehow. I don't know. It's all right. I'm getting used to it, but I'm not 100% there yet. Maybe a different can would improve it, but I don't think this is too bad. It probably weighs 1,000,000 tons, but I don't think it sounds too bad, the standard can. So yeah, I hope you can hear me. The engine it's quite strong. It's easy to control. It's just enough. Match that with a good set of tyres. I'd say I'm quite confident in these tyres. And it's a good package. The engine braking's quite strong too, so you know, changing down and controlling the bike using engine braking is pretty good. I very rarely use back brake, so engine braking really does help the way I ride. Okay, fuel. It's a 15-litre tank. So not the biggest tank, but even taking into consideration the way that I ride, and I don't ride slowly everywhere. I'm getting on average about 72 miles to the gallon out of this. So with a 15 litre tank, that equates to roughly just over 230 mile tank range from a full topped up tank, which I think is pretty good. Pretty good if you're out on a tour or you're out on a good day's ride. You know, I could ride this to the Welsh coast and back on one tank. Without spoiling any fun. So another tick. Now obviously the other thing about this bike which set it out against some of the others was the TFT. Well, I think Kawasaki are basically using the same TFT across most of the range now, although some of the bigger bikes will have more functionality because the bigger bikes will have different riding modes. This hasn't got any different riding modes at all. It's got ABS and that's it. So all your controls are basic controls, everything that we normally are used to. Where do we go here? So yeah, touching on the controls then. So you know, you've got your lights, your indicators, your horn, your hazards, your kill switch, rear starter, and then both brake levers, come on, wakey, brake and clutch levers are both span adjustable, and I have no mind to change those out for anything aftermarket, because I'm not a fan of shorty levers. I prefer full size levers. So the TFT, as you'll be able to see in the shot, I think it's really good. Gives you everything you need. Obviously revs and speed, clock, engine temperature, you've got a couple of trips, odometer, range, average miles per gallon, all important fuel gauge, and gear indicator. Rightly. Someone's blown a gasket. And I think the colours it can reverse so that it's black on a white background. And I can't remember, thinking about it, it's a good review this is, isn't it? I can't remember if that automatically changes in the dark. I ought to know that. It probably does. The TFT also connects to your phone via Bluetooth. to a Kawasaki Rideology app, I think it is. I've got the app, I've connected it, but I don't use it. Maybe that could make another video. Finding out what the thing does. When you fill the bike up, the range indicator does take quite a while of riding to register what your expected range will be, but the fuel gauge does indicate full straight away, unlike some. That's the only niggle I've had about the TFT, is that the range does take a while to work itself out, but that's no deal breaker. All in all, I like the TFT, I think it's good. I'm well pleased with that. I could have gone for the 2019 model. They had a couple of those in stock in the more desirable green accented racing colours, but it was 2020, so I wanted the 2020 model and there was only black ones available. But I'm pleased with my choice because I think the TFT is an improvement over the analog and LCD of the previous model. So what's the gearing like? Well, the gearing's pretty good. I've got no complaints about the ratio of the gears. There's nothing too short, nothing too tall. They seem okay for the bike as it is. And the gear change is reasonably slick. Each gear selection snicks in quite nicely. It's not clunky, it's not woolly. Pretty positive. I'm used to Suzuki gearboxes, which are well renowned, and this isn't bad at all compared. It's pretty close. Quite happy. Had a couple of force neutrals in the running in period, but the gearbox is a lot better now than it was when I first picked up the bike. It seems to have worn itself in pretty well, so happy with that. And the brakes, the twin discs on the front, the single disc on the rear, perfectly adequate for the size of bike and its capabilities. I've got no complaints with the strength of braking for the way I ride. For what I've done so far, all pretty good. Yeah, so in general, the package that I've bought, I'm very pleased with. I can ride this bike with confidence. I can make progress on this bike. I can ride it so that it's even more frugal on fuel, especially if I was doing a tour or a long distance ride. I could sit in the saddle longer than I could on my GSXR. All told, I'm very pleased with it. As with everyone and everything, there's always some things that you're not 100% happy with. The screen, for one, isn't brilliant. The exhaust could probably be changed for something aftermarket, which would be sounding nicer and looking a bit better perhaps. A tail tidy could be put on to get rid of that big lump of plastic hanging over the back wheel. But all these things depend on whether I decide to keep the bike long term, and that decision has not been made yet, and probably won't be made for another year at least. I think for the time being this bike is going to fulfill all my needs, and the GSXR is in storage in the garage while I decide what to do with it. I'm half considering selling. I'm also considering using it as a project bike, not to change it into anything else, but just to fettle it and make it better than what it is. Maybe even quite a detailed strip down, we'll see. Depending on my confidence and capabilities with the spanners. One thing I forgot to look at before I came out was the service intervals and service costs. They're quite good, I think. I'll put them up on the screen. Yeah, they're not astronomical as far as I can remember, and getting it serviced with the dealer that I bought the bike from, I get a 10% discount on those service costs. There's a loyalty discount, so that's not too bad, I don't think. So anyway, I'm heading back home. I think that sort of wraps up everything that I wanted to say. If I've missed out any particular point that you might want to ask a question of, drop a comment below. I hope you've been able to hear me through this video. It is pretty windy, and this helmet is not the quietest in the world. I've had some GoPro battery issues as well, so it might take me a while to stitch this video together. Hopefully I've covered everything I wanted to, and I've got it on video, and I haven't just been talking to my helmet. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Smells lovely, that does. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there for today, because I'm back off home now. And like I say, ask me any questions, leave me a comment. And if you want me to do any videos on any of the gear I use, camera or riding gear or anything like that, let me know and I'll see what I can do. So until next time, I'll catch you later. See you then. Ta-ra.